Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 116 of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. My name is Bill Pivots. So this week's episode of NXT was highlighted by a elimination triple threat match between Asuka, Nicky Cross, and Riott for the NXT Women's Championship. Before we got to that, though, we did have a few matches. The show kicked off with Drew McIntyre versus Rob Risen. Rob shoved Drew, and then he got some, he talked some smack, and for his efforts, though, he received a front kick from McIntyre. Rob kicked the knee out and landed a super kick, but he only got a 1 count. Drew came back with a corner clothesline and a diving forearm off the top. He then shoved Risen off the top rope and out of the ring. He then connected with his running Yakuza kick and got the win. It was the same old for McIntyre since he's returning. Just dominant squash matches, really nothing too competitive for him. At this point, I'm ready to see him in a meaningful feud, whether it's for the NXT title or not. Just something to get me to sink my teeth into. These squash matches, I'm kind of just half paying attention because I already know the outcome. It's really not that entertaining at this point. It was announced that Ember Moon will return to action next week, and she faces Peyton Royce. And we got a quick Aleister Black vignette before leading to the second match. Authors of Pain versus 2 jobbers that I didn't care to get the names of. Akam took the head off of one of the jobbers with a running boot. Razor was pretty much on the outside the whole time talking to Paul Ellering. Akam tossed one of the other guys out of the ring and then slammed his first opponent down to get the win. Essentially a 1-on-2 handicap match. Razor didn't even get in the ring. I don't think he even stood on the apron for the whole match. After the match, though, Authors of Pain picked the 2 guys up, hit the Super Collider, and then Paul Ellering got on the mic, calling out Heavy Machinery. He said that they've been in NXT for over a year and haven't lost a match. He then listed off all the teams that they defeated, including TM61 and DIY. Heavy Machinery came out, made their way to the ring. The 2 teams stood nose to nose. There wasn't much of a reaction from the crowd. Ellering smartened up, turned the Authors of Pain away, and they walked up the ramp. We got a quick Sonya Deville vignette, the former Daria Baronato, and that she will be appearing on next week's episode. Third match, Velveteen Dream versus Raul Mendoza. They mentioned that Mendoza was in the Cruiserweight Classic. I don't remember him being in there, but that was almost a year ago. Could have slipped my mind. Mendoza got some offense in early, but Dream caught him with a big boot in midair. He then whipped him with a belt, which wasn't cause for a disqualification. Mendoza landed a heel kick, but Dream countered a move and then hit a rolling Death Valley driver before winning with his diving elbow. Decent match. Really don't care about this Velveteen Dream gimmick, but he's got a good look and they're pushing him, so I guess we're going to have to deal with it for a little bit. We then got a recap for the Hideo Itami Oni Lorcan match and the post-match stuff. Kassius Ohno was interviewed backstage about his friendship with Hideo. He said he stooped to Itami's level and then he shoved him. He said that Hideo is just frustrated. He's not a bad guy. And William Regal obliged him by giving him a match with Aleister Black next week. That is going to be a great match. The guy with the elbows and the guy with the vicious kicks, that's going to be a vicious match. So after all that, it was time for the main event, Asuka, Ruby Riott, Nicky Cross. Out of nowhere, Nicky Cross crawled her way to the ring. Thank God for no sanity entrance. That's one less thing I have to fast forward there. Small battle between the 3 women. Asuka was left standing as the 2 were on the outside. Riott and Cross worked together for a little bit, sending Asuka to the outside herself before they crossed paths. Riott then sent Nicky Cross to the outside. She stood tall in the ring as they went to the first commercial break. Back from break a little bit later, Asuka went for a running kick. Same thing from TakeOver Chicago, but Ruby Riott caught her. I like the callback from that finish. Riott drop-kicked both opponents from the apron onto the outside. Moments later, Nicky Cross hit a fisherman neckbreaker onto Asuka, but she rolled out of the ring, preventing Nicky Cross from getting the pin. Cross then eliminated Ruby Riott after a swinging neckbreaker from the top. She had Riott's feet planted on the top and then just swung her around, similar to Randy Orton's DDT from the second rope, but just a neckbreaker. So then it was down to Nicky Cross and Asuka. They went back and forth while screaming at each other. Asuka landed the hip attack from the apron. They then began brawling up the ramp by the stage and then ended up in the backstage area, almost at the parking lot. The ref called for the bell, ruled it a no contest. Pretty much of a shit finish. The crowd chanted, "Ref, you suck." But the brawl continued. Camera caught up with them. The officials came out, tried breaking them up. They continued. They made their way back by the announcers. They ended up by the production table. Asuka had 1 foot on the barricade, and Nicky Cross went for a crossbody. They both fell through a table down below. The crowd popped, chanting "Holy shit." And the show closed with officials, William Regal, a bunch of refs, checking on the 2 women. The match was good when all 3 women were in the ring. I liked the interactions between all 3. They got some moves in. The slight teamwork between Nicky Cross and Ruby Riott told a great story. I just don't know where this leads, because neither woman was pinned. Asuka's still a champion, but Nikki Cross wasn't defeated. And now that you have Ember Moon back in the picture, women's division just got a little more crowded here in NXT, and that's not a bad thing. But the match kind of fell apart towards the end. Really wasn't anything. I mean, the brawl was nice, but the lack of a finish kind of leaves things open-ended for Nikki Cross. Overall, this was a decent show. We had 3 squash matches and a non-finish for the main event. Wasn't really exciting for the most part. They're kind of in a holding pattern. We got a couple more months until TakeOver Brooklyn 3. So they're waiting maybe until the beginning of July or so to pick things up. As for next week, though, it should be a great show. Ember Moon's back in action against Peyton Royce. And the main event, Aleister Black versus Kassius Ohno. That should be a great match as well. Alright guys, thanks for checking out this episode of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. Follow me on Twitter at bpiv_sports. Like, comment, subscribe to the show on YouTube, and I'll be back next week with episode 117. Peace.